Hey everybody, this is Rick Denton with Rick Denton Guide Service. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about that pre-spawn. It's actually really cold here in Texas down here. I live in LaGrange, Texas, and it's really cold down here. The last couple of days it's getting colder and colder. And yesterday's trip, we did really well. We had 26, and we had to go in about an hour and a half early. My clients got really cold, and it got cold on us. But we did pretty good. I'm going to talk to y'all a little bit of what these fish are going to do now. A lot of these fish on these lakes are in the pre-spawn stage. Now, if you go from a third, right now in Fayette County, they're on that first third. They're moving out and they're starting to suspend, but they're doing a lot of feeding and stuff, and you can catch a lot of good fish. I'm catching them cranking. Basically, when they start moving out like that, at this point, it's hard to catch them on shaky heads or Carolina rig or jigs and stuff like that. These fish will suspend off. They're not going to move in because they're pretty far from any higher rises like humps or creek channel cuts and stuff. They're suspending in that water. They found that right thermocline and that right temperature to actually sit there and suspend to build their egg sac up. Now, a lot of people make a mistake and they start beating the banks and stuff. Yes, you're going to catch some fish. You're going to catch some smaller fish, and you may have the, 2 or 3 pounders up there, and every once in a while you'll maybe hang a big one. A lot of times this time of year they like to hold close to that timber too and suspend if you got that deep timber. The best thing I'm going to tell you right now is that it's going to get cold. It's going to get really cold. We're talking single digits, and I even heard Austin say we may even hit zero for the next 5 or 6 days. It's going to get really cold, and what's going to happen is that water temperature it's going to drop. Right now in Fayette County, 62.5 degrees is the common temperature in that lake there, and I'm thinking this happened back in the 80s one time. We got real cold. It got cold for like 2 weeks, and that water temperature dropped into the 40s during this pre-spawn mode, and them fish backed off, and it took dang almost a month for them to actually move up and start spawning. But when they did, they just all at one time, boom. Last year that spawn, it was kind of funny too. They started up there and started making beds, and they backed off because we got some cold weather in February again, like it is now. And they backed off a little bit, and it done it twice within about 2.5 weeks. And then all of a sudden, it was like 2 days, boom, they just all moved up. And it was a hard thing to fish because there was fish everywhere on beds. Uh, but one of the best things like this, when that water temperature is dropping, these fish will actually back off into these creek channels, and they'll back off to the main lake a little bit more and start suspending. Now, I know LaGrange is Fayetteville is a power plant lake, and these fish that already or make that move out a little bit, they're going to stabilize and find that right temperature. So they're going to move way up into that hot water and get warm. It's too much on their body when they have eggs in them. Now, if they didn't have eggs, they will do that. But we're not catching the fish we did in the hot water area like we were 2 or 3 weeks ago. They're moving out because a lot of the big fish, most of the big fish, got eggs in them, and they're slowly starting on that major pre-spawn part to where they're going to blow up and get some weight on them, and that's the way you want to catch them. But I'm going to tell you a little trick and a little secret how to catch these fish even on horrible days. Now tomorrow I'm going to go fishing tomorrow. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to fight this wind. I had to move a lot of my trips up because the next 7 days, I mean, it's going to be really cold. We got snow predicting. Heck, it was snowing this morning when I was at my church. But anyway, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna search on these fish, and I'm gonna make sure that these fish are backing off. And the reason I do that is to put my clients on really, really big fish, because when they start backing off, I know it's time to start cranking on these fish. Now, a lot of times they'll move up and down, and they'll find that right thermocline and be right on top of that thermocline, because the shad are going to be around that thermocline a lot, and they can just go down and eat. But most of the time, when it's super cold like this, they will find them warmer pockets in that cold water. And it's like the summertime when you have these cold pockets in the warm water. Well, it takes effect. It's opposite now. So they'll find it. You may find 5 or 6 fish stacked real close together, and those are the big females. And a lot of times, this time of year, I'm guessing at the depth that I'm going to find them in tomorrow. I'm talking maybe 13, 14, 15, 16 foot as the water temperature gets colder and colder. And it's going to get colder because when it's going to be 5 degrees here, it's going to get cold. I don't care what you say, it's going to get cold. And these fish, they're going to adapt to it. They may move, they're going to be around, but they're going to be in them main lake creek channels coming up inside of these coves. That's where they're staging at the first third. And they do this no matter what happens, but you got to get down on them. Now, if they're stabilizing, I'm going to get my boat, I'm going to find them, and I'm going to get my boat directly into them to where I can make those casts on those fish repeatedly, cast after cast, until I get down to the depth. If I get down to their depth and I'm close to them, they will bite that crankbait. Now, one of the best baits that I can tell you right now to use is an umbrella rig. And I take off the whites of the umbrella rigs, and I will put maybe a pumpkin perch color jigs on them. grub jigs on them because they like that. It's more meaty to them, so they will actually eat that a little bit better. Now, these fish are going to fight you. I mean, they don't want to move into that colder water because the closer you get to that shallow water, the closer it comes. So just be prepared. I would have bigger line on there and just try to find your target zone. I mean, it's just like the video I did on the dam fishing in that sweet spot. It's basically the same thing, except you're fishing open water. Now, most of these creek channels, like on a lot of these lakes, when you come into your coves, is when they start rising up a little bit into these coves. That's when you're going to find them. If you can find a belly, that's where they're going to suspend. It seems like the bait fish get in them bellies a little bit better, and it's easier for them to feed. Now, once they get onto that full-fledged pre-spawn and they're fixing to move up in a week, that's when you really got to start searching on these male bass making these beds. A lot of times these lakes get a little muddy. We get a lot of rain this time of year, and it's hard to actually see them. I would concentrate on the beds that are in 4 to 7 foot of water. These big females like that deeper water. We have a problem, especially on Fayette County, of people walking and cast netting on beds, which I guess will never stop. I mean, that's what's hurting the lake so bad. But I would concentrate on that deeper water. That's where your bigger fish are going to be. The sunlight doesn't penetrate them so bad, and they will actually move up there no matter if it's cloudy or sunny. The wind penetration on the bank, especially if you've got a bank that has a lot of wind on it, those fish kind of wait for that wind to slow down a little bit. But that deeper water, I would say like I said, 4 to 7 foot. That's where I do a lot of concentrating on that. And I would throw a black and blue wacky rig on them, or even a Texas rig works well. You can use basically anything, but the wacky rig to me seems to catch my biggest fish, or a smaller JB jig shaky head. Now, I did a video here a couple years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, with a JB jig 3/8 ounce shaky head, and I caught some really big fish. When that bait sits up on that thing there, it sits up on that thing, and that tail's just a wagging. That female, she cannot resist to knock it off of there. A lot of times they'll knock it, but they're going to grab it. That's some of the things that I do on that spawn. But you got to search for these male bass. This male bass, they're going to tell you when these fish are about to move up. And I did a video last year again on the cruising these females do when they come out off that deep water to get on their beds. They will cruise around for a little bit, and that's when they're most easiest to catch. They're going to be the heaviest. They're going to be the more active. But when they get on beds, they're just trying to knock stuff off, and they'll bite you, but they're just trying to knock stuff off mainly. But if you can catch them cruising, that's the best time. Now, everybody, y'all stay warm because it's going to get super, super cold down here. And I'm going to see how I do in that cold. I may go fishing Monday, too, because I have to move a lot of my trips because of the cold weather. People don't want to fish in snow and ice. I do. I want to get out there and I can dress for it, but I want to get out there and see what these fish are doing and get my boat covered with snow and have a good old time. And I may shoot some video out there in that snow if it's acceptable, if I'm not freezing to death. But anyway, everybody have a wonderful day. Stay warm, and God bless.